might notice the shirt I'm wearing, a black t-shirt from Beyond. One of my favorite shirts, actually. I really like this whole line of t-shirts. You might notice that it's covered in lint. There's a reason for that, which is part of the reasons why I'm making this film. But I'm also making this film because I am now on Starlink internet and I need a test. I need to do a test. So I made some notes last night at dinner about marriage, and I thought because I've been a veteran now of many tours in the marriage that I'm in, I figured that it would be a good time for me to give you a little advice for those of you who either are married and are struggling, or those of you who are walking that slippery, dangerous razor blade edge of thinking about getting married. And again, this film is really being done more as a test than anything else, but as you will notice, my black shirt covered in lint. Yes, this is very much tied to my marriage. I typically do my own laundry because yesterday when I put a load of darks in, what I didn't realize is right before I hit play, my wife stuffed in like a white blanket. Not a comforter, but like a blanket that looked kind of like a caterpillar. It had so much stuff on it, fibers. It looked comfortable. It's brand new, looked comfy. It needed to be washed probably 100 times before it would ever go in with anything outside of itself. And yet here it is. So all of my clothing, dark clothing, is now covered in white lint at a level that's kind of hard to comprehend until you see it, because that's what my wife did. So I got a list of 10 points here, and I think these are actually good points that are relevant for people who are in marriages, again, or people who are thinking about it. Number one, marriages are based on actual real love. And that is very, very rare. Let me say this even before we get to point one. The precursor, the sub drop-down menu. I think marriage is a modern invention that is unfair to most people. I don't think the human species was a species designed to be together forever. I really don't. I think that's why you see so many divorces and high divorce rates. It's just not fair to a lot of people. But there are exceptions to that. And I think I'm one of those exceptions, and I think my wife, hypothetically, is one as well. So marriages are based on actual real love. That is very, very rare. It is. Not lust, not trend, not convenience. It's based on someone who accepts you for the absolute a-hole that you actually are. And let's face it, you're an a-hole, and I'm an a-hole, and so is everyone else, at least part-time. And marriage is based on you finding someone who is able and capable and willing to look past it. And if you are one of those people who think, I'm not an a-hole, then you're the biggest a-hole of all, because we all are. Point number two. I mentioned this in a film before and I got a lot of comments about it. Marriage is often the first time in your life where you have to think about someone else more than you think about yourself. And that is very challenging, especially for certain people, especially for people in high-stress jobs, high-profile jobs, especially in the modern era where jobs are invasive and the online global community is invasive. They're on top of you all the time, and sometimes you can just motor past where you should be. And marriage is about thinking about someone else more than yourself for often the first time in your life. And that is a challenge. It doesn't mean that you give up on who you are. It doesn't mean that you don't continue to adapt. But when push comes to shove and situations are less than savory, you have to think about the other person at least 51% of the time. You cannot fall back on me. Again, that's why it's so hard. Number three. Marriage is about challenging your partner. It is. Do it. And you can be curt, be rude. That is the balance. Sometimes your partner needs blunt force opposition to an idea or a thought or wanting to do something. That's the beauty of the relationship when you're married, that it's strong enough to where you can say, you are wrong and this is why. And then you hope that they take that in the right way. And sometimes they do. And then sometimes they don't. But remember, point number three, challenge them. You cannot get steamrolled in your relationship. My wife and I are totally different people, completely different people in almost every way, which is probably why it still works after 27 of the longest years of my life. Number four, honesty. About all those things you can never tell anyone, no matter how horrible your thoughts are, share them. And yes, they will hold it against you. So, marriage is that rare moment. It's the human form of your journal, where the journal is a free fire zone. It is only for you. You can write and say and do anything you want in your journal. It's a fantasy land. Marriage is a little bit similar. This is one of the only people on the planet that you can look at and tell them exactly what it is you're thinking, no matter how horrible that thought is. Now, my wife does hold this against me. I said something before we were married. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was horrible. Horrible. And I think I mostly meant it. And it locked in, man. It locked in her brain. And 27 years later, she's still holding it against me. It's just the way it is. I said it. That's the honesty part. I said it. It could be interpreted in a variety of ways. It could have been interpreted in like a redeeming, like honorable, well, at least you're being honest about that. It wasn't, but it could have been. It was interpreted as, wow, can't believe you said that. 27 years later, she's reminding me. But the basis of this point is I was honest. That's the key. I mean, where else in life are you that honest? And if you're saying all the time, remember, go back to point 1, you're the biggest a-hole of all. Number 5, admitting when you're wrong. Man, does this suck. This is where American politicians could really learn something from old Uncle Dano here. When you're wrong, you have to admit it. And here's the great thing about admitting when you're wrong. It diffuses every single situation. When you say, look, oh, that's on me. And this applies both professionally and personally in your marriage. Professionally, if you screw up at work and you say, oh man, that's on me, I did it. 99.9% of the time, your colleagues, your coworkers are like, don't worry about it, we'll fix it, move on. Same thing in your marriage. You do something wrong. Did you back the van into the Starlink satellite transmitter? Nope, didn't do it. Well, eventually they're going to find out you did, and then it's going to compound over time, and it's going to be worse. If you say, you know what, you come in the house and you just get it out in front and say, you know what, I just ran over the Starlink thing in the van, they're going to be ticked, definitely ticked. There's going to be some name calling, going to be a reminder of how poorly you did in school, how they could have found someone much superior to you. That's all going to happen, and then it goes away. So admit when you're wrong. Number 6, their joy is more than your joy, and it always will be. She loves people and noise and fish for breakfast and disco and musicals, and she's messy and unorganized, and none of that matters because my wife is happy. Let me reread that statement. This will give you this is called foreshadowing into who my wife actually is, a little roadmap. She loves people. She's incredibly social. I'm not. She loves noise, sound. She talks at top volume. Her family is at volume 11 all the time. That's their normal waking voice. Whether they're this far away from you or they're across the room, you're going to get volume 11. I'm not. I'm quiet. She loves fish for breakfast. I can't stand it. It makes me want to puke. She loves disco and dancing. I can't do either, and I don't like disco. She loves musicals. I will give you the launch codes before I watch a musical. Not interested. And she's a complete messy. If you saw what's behind this wall to my left, you'd probably break down and cry. And she's a bit unorganized, although she would argue that. And none of it matters because you know what? She's happy. And when I ask her, are you happy? She goes, yeah, I'm happy. That's all that matters. All of that other stuff is trivial. It's the minutia that doesn't matter. And if you cling on to a piece of that minutia and it gnaws at you and gnaws at you and gnaws at you, that's how people drift apart. You don't want that. It doesn't matter. Are they happy? Good. Move on. Number 7, they help you when you really need it because they might actually see you in the same way. No real idea what I was trying to say with that one. I don't know. That was done at dinner last night. I was eating some pita bread and hummus, and I don't think I can do 2 things at once. By the way, multitasking is a physical impossibility. Human brain cannot do 2 things at once. That is a modern thing that the tech companies have convinced everyone we can do. We can't do it. Help when you really need it because they might actually see you in the same way. We're going to skip point 7 for now while I decipher what my notes actually meant. Number 8 is you are actual partners in everything. We're partners. That's the gyrocopter pilot in Mad Max when he's rescuing him and he says, we're partners. and that's my spot-on Aussie accent. I've seen that movie 18 times. Your partner's in everything. And that's really key. No matter how far down the rabbit hole of photography that I go, a personal project that I'm not telling anyone about, that I'm down deep, any outside peripheral noise, questions, anything feels incredibly annoying because you're so myopically focused on what it is you're doing. You have to remember that they are involved in it as well. Even if you've never had a conversation about it, they don't know anything about it, they are there. They are a shadow that has to be incorporated into what you're doing. Otherwise, it's going to cause friction down the road. Number 9, celebrate the things that drive you mad. She snores, then fights with me in the night, but I know what it means to her, and that trumps my sleep. I'll give you an example. Let's talk hypothetics. Let's say, hypothetically, that at 2:57 a.m. this morning, I woke up and decided to get some water. And let's say that hypothetically I walked to the front window and happened to look out because I heard that Jupiter is the brightest it's been in 60 years, and I thought, maybe I'll have a look-see at Jupiter. How can I miss this thing? And let's say that hypothetically I looked out into the front and I saw my wife's little old SUV, and I saw the dome light on inside, which had been on clearly all evening. So let's say hypothetically I went back into the bedroom and said, hey, you left your dome light on. Now, that could be a bad move there. I could have gone out and handled it, but it's 2:57 in the morning. Maybe I wasn't thinking that straight, and I thought, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to share the fact that the dome light is on, and maybe this will work as a reminder to not leave the dome light on, because let's say hypothetically this has happened 2 or 3 times in the last year, and let's say hypothetically the battery went dead, and then hypothetically I had to try to jumpstart that car from a bizarre angle with my van, hypothetically, 2-3 times in the last year, only to be faced with anger and what are you doing up at 3 in the morning? That was, let's say hypothetically that happened. You have to literally celebrate the madness that is. You have to, because if you don't, I'm telling you, look at the divorce rates. They are astronomical because people just can't let it go. You have to celebrate it. So 3 hours passes. Let's say hypothetically, she reemerges from slumber and you have a dialogue about what happened in the night, and you have to laugh. By the way, you should end the day and start the day with 2 things: sunshine and laughter. Sunshine, you should get 20 minutes of sun in early hours of the day to help with your sleep that night, and then also try to check out the sunset. Sunrise and sunset should not be missed. Okay, number 10, know that it's all fleeting, and whatever you harbor that drives you apart will seem like nothing when a stranger is inserting a catheter in you at a retirement center as you realize what you had was way better than you first imagined. That's gonna happen. Let me repeat that. Know that everything you have, this marriage, even if it lasts for 80 years, in the grand scheme, it's fleeting. And whatever you harbor that drives you apart will seem like nothing when a stranger is inserting a catheter in you at a retirement center as you realize what you had was way better than what you first imagined. So we're all headed there. Maybe. I was going to say the fortunate ones, but that doesn't sound too dreamy to me. So I don't know. Maybe I just wander out in the woods and bear country and let things take their turn. I don't know. But you have to realize what you have is good, mostly good. And you have to stick to that and acknowledge it and move on. And so that's my little film test here to see if my Starlink internet is going to be able to upload a film like this. And I've got an actual film I'm working on that is called Just Doesn't Matter. And it's going to be different. It's going to take me a while to put this together. I have no idea when it's coming, but I'm tired of doing sort of the same Q&A things over again and again. I want to start making some other kinds of films. The problem is they take a lot of time to put together, and I'm kind of busy right now. So anyway, and by the way, this is my office. This is the end of my narrow shotgun office, and it's not that exciting. I'll be back.